Hey guys, it's Pop Rocks, and today we're going to be talking about Season 20 and then Hero 45 speculations and theories. These are all my opinion and all my things, and I've heard them echoed, but it's good to know that other people have the same sentiment as me. I just wanted to make that very clear now, so if you see somebody like Master Ian Gamer, I saw his video, but I already had everything for my video ready to go, and then I saw his video last night, and I was like, oh crap. So I want to get mine out now before everybody's doing their videos, so yeah, let's get right into it. Alright, so the first things I'm going to be talking about are lore, concrete lore that we know, a little bit of speculation, and then the leaks I have seen and you have probably seen by now. But I will make sure to have chapters for the leaks and the lore. So I'll have lore, and then it'll be leaked lore with lore in quotations, and then it'll be role speculation and then kit speculation. So if you want to just skip the leaks, that's fine. I wouldn't skip the lore part, but if you don't want to know the leaks, then yeah, you can just skip that and we can get straight into it now. Okay, so what do we know about the upcoming hero's lore? Well, we know that she is going to be a woman, so we're going to have another female character in the game. We don't know what role concretely. I have seen a couple things saying she's going to be this role or that role, but I prefer if she was a tank. But if she ends up being a DPS, because those are the two roles I'm thinking of right now, then so be it. But what we do know is that she's a woman. She is going to be Italian because, you've heard the voice. She has a bunch of Italian stuff around her, like the She-Wolf of Retribution. We initially saw that it was in Italian. In a devlog video, we saw her with Redacted in the feminine Italian version of Redacted. And then on top of that, she is linked to the Colosseum, which is in Italy, so it's very obvious she's going to be our first Italian hero. Next, in a recent interview, I think it was Alec Dawson or somebody on the dev team was saying how, in an interview, she is going to play a major role in the upcoming story. And if you don't remember, in the Reconciliation comic with Ramattra and Zenyatta, Ramattra basically told Zenyatta, I wish you could have worked with me, but Phase 1 is already complete. And he was saying how, he's killed millions of humans, captured millions of Omnics, and he has these Omnics in this basically sort of trance, this little different world he's made, and he is going to return them to new proper bodies once he figures out how to do so. So Ramattra has officially stepped down because Phase 1 of his plan is complete, and now he just needs to bide his time and survive. Now, what do I think is going to happen with the lore in this? Well, I don't think... Some people are thinking the Omnic Crisis is going to be completely gone. No, I think it's going to be more like a different situation, because it seems like they're going to lean back into the Talon versus Overwatch thing, with Talon and Overwatch stuff happening recently while Ramattra and Null Sector slowly died down. So I think what we're going to have is mostly a faction war, but we're still going to have Null Sector being searched for, people trying to find where Ramattra's new base is, since not even Zenyatta knows that. So right now, nobody except Ramattra and Omnics in Null Sector know where he is. So I think there might be a little side story about that, but we're not talking about that. We're going to be talking about Hero 45 and Season 20. But yeah, that's the lore that we do know, and then a little bit of speculation on my part on what I think is going to come after that. Now it's time for the leaks, and if you don't want to see the leaks, just quickly pause the video and find the chapter for the hero speculation, role speculation, kit speculation, etc., and then I will see you when we get back to there after these messages, aka the leaks. Alright, since I started with the lore first, I just wanted to let you know I will be calling her Lupa. The next hero is going to be calling Lupa because we have seen all the other stuff refer to her as Lupa, which is probably her codename, but in the leaks we did learn that her name is actually going to be Vendetta, potentially. This is backed up by the fact that her hero poster on Orina Victoria has the XLV, which stands for 45, but the V specifically is highlighted in red. Well, is red. So that makes me think that the leak is more credible because of that little detail that I didn't really initially think about. So according to the leaks, Vendetta was the adoptive daughter of Antonio, I believe is his name, which if you don't remember is from the Retribution event back in Overwatch 1, and Reaper, Gabriel Reyes, he killed Antonio in a fit of rage, and thus started that mission up of Blackwatch versus Talon. Following that mission, a guy named Viola, I believe is his name, but I'm probably wrong on the pronunciation and even spelling, but he was the new head of Talon following Antonio's death. And Vendetta, she went to go train in the Colosseum because she saw Viola's rise to power as taking basically her throne to Talon. So she went to go train in the Colosseum, become strong to kill him. Well, if you don't know, in the Masquerade comic with Talon, Doomfist actually kills Viola in the end and takes over Talon, and now Vendetta is mad. And by the way, Vendetta is probably her call sign, her alias, not her actual name, because that'd be silly. But yeah, the leak continues that following her, knowing the information of Doomfist killing Viola, the guy she wanted to kill, now she wants to kill Doomfist to get her get back. And she probably doesn't know that Gabriel Reyes killed Antonio and that he is now Reaper, but still. So she goes in, kills a bunch of guards on her way to a Talon board meeting with Sigma, Moira, Reaper, Maximilian, and Doomfist. Probably Sombra or Widowmaker's there too, if this leak is to be believed. So she goes in, challenges Doomfist to a fight. It's Doomfist. He's fought the entirety of Overwatch and was still barely taken down. So he's like, sure, I'll fight you. Sure, why not? One-on-one with all my subordinates. Whatever, why not? Now, if the leak is to be believed, they fight and she ends up cutting off his arm. Now, I don't know if it means his entire arm, because I'm assuming it's his Doomfist arm, but I don't know if it'll be his entire arm or just prying off, more accurately, the Doomfist from his body. But either way, she cuts off his Doomfist arm, and then apparently I made this up because I went and reread the leak. It said nothing about her throwing Doomfist out the window. I just thought she threw him out the window for some reason. But anyway, my headcanon, she defenestrates Doomfist out the window, which is, throwing somebody out the window. That's what defenestration means if you didn't know. So yeah, that's the leak. I hope if this is true, it is exaggerated in the leak, and it will be handled with more care, because it said he may be dead. Now, I don't think Doomfist is dead at all. I think Sombra would know that, Sigma would know that, Maximilian would know that, Reaper would know that, Widowmaker would know that Doomfist is probably not going to die. But he will definitely be taking basically a back seat, kind of like Ramatra is, while Vendetta becomes the new head of Talon in this league. And then following this, we get a thing of Winston saying, Talon is everywhere, and then there's a Talon ship above HQ. So, I think what happens is, if this is completely true, right, there's nothing false about this, it's just handled better in actuality, then I think after this, Doomfist will basically be on unfortunately, he'll be on another mission to reclaim his gauntlet in the lore, or maybe seeking, some assistance from Null Sector just to realize he can't get into contact with Ramatra. Meanwhile, Vendetta finds out that Blackwatch actually killed her adoptive father, Antonio, which she doesn't know. Specifically, Reaper and Moira were on the Blackwatch team, but she does know Blackwatch was under Overwatch. So that is why I think she would launch a full-scale assault on Overwatch, because they killed her father, either directly or not. Doesn't matter. A branch of Overwatch has killed her father, so she's like, okay, I think I killed Doomfist just now. I have his gauntlet, so why not? We're gonna go attack Overwatch because they're trying to rise up again, and we can't let that happen. That is my speculation according to the leaks, so yeah. Then we will be getting into some role speculation, and then the kit. Now, I have 3 reasons for why Lupa, which if you didn't see, we're going to be calling her Lupa, because that's what, the Haunted Masquerade mask said, and then even the Weapon Charm mask said Lupa mask, so I'm going to take that as a code name. So Lupa, I have 3 reasons for why she could be a tank, and why 3 reasons she could be a DPS, so we're going to get into those right now. So, the first thing I want to talk about is that if we have another style of tank play, this would be able to spice up the tank roster a little bit while also beefing it up a tiny bit. Because right now I believe we're sitting at 13 tanks, 12 supports, so I feel like if we go 14 tanks and the next character is a support or something, that would be fine. But is what it is. I think a little bit of spice might be nice, but it depends on how different she would be from Junker Queen and Reinhardt feel-wise. If she isn't different enough, then obviously I wouldn't want her to be a tank, because then it's just, boring. But if she's, basically Overwatch 2's version of Reinhardt proper, then, I'm not gonna be that mad. As long as it's much different from Rein, but still generally as fun. The second reason is hero release schedule. So, the first tank we got in Overwatch 2 was obviously Season 1 with Junker Queen, because we got 1 each role, Season 1. Season 2, we got Ramatra. Then it took us until Season 8 to get Mauga. Took us till Season 14 to get Hazard. And now we're hitting Season 20, and it feels like it's about time to have a new tank. Because Ramatra to Mauga, took a little longer than I would like. And then Mao got a Hazard was a couple releases with you got your Venture, then you got Juno, then Hazard, then Freya, then Wu Young, and now this hero, which could be about time for a new tank. Now, if we don't get a tank and she becomes a DPS, then at least next time I feel like we're going to get a tank, but we only have to see from here. The other reason that I think she could be a tank is because currently we only have 4 female tanks while we have 9 male tanks. Now, I'm not saying that we should force diversity. That's not what I'm saying at all. But I think it would be nice to have another female tank character because then it'll bring it to a 5-9 rather than a 4-9, and it'll just be a little bit more balanced. So people who do like playing mostly female characters, like women or men, because there are some women on the game who just like to play women, and that's fair enough. There's some men who just like to play women, some who just like to play men, etc., etc. So if we have another female tank, that would be nice. You might get a couple more people on the tank roster, especially if she's fun. On top of that, her silhouette is always big and imposing, similar to how Ramatra's was. It was always big, always imposing, big-ass sword, which makes me more inclined to believe she could be a tank, but, we can only wait and see. But that is my tank speculation, my role speculation for the tank. We'll begin to reasons why she could also be a DPS. Okay, I'm going to list you my weakest reason for a DPS, and that is the fact that we have a mostly female cast when it comes to the role of a DPS. We have 10 female DPS and then 8 male DPS. Now, while this isn't a big difference, it is good to note that they do favor women as the DPS category. And I will say I did not count Venture, so that is why it does not add up to 19, our current DPS roster amount, is because I didn't count Venture either because I'm not confident in which way Venture is. So yeah, even if you wanted to count Venture as a woman, for instance, and that's 11-8, or a man, that's still 10-9. So there's still obviously a slight lenience towards the female characters when it comes to DPS. So that's why I'm saying it could be like a pro for being a DPS, but also a con because there's so many women in the DPS category. But then also it's like they clearly have a favoritism towards having female DPS characters, which is not a bad thing. I want to make that very clear. I'm not trying to say it's a bad thing. I'm just saying this is the fact. There are more female DPS, so you could be seen as a pro for another female DPS or a con for another female DPS. Next, the stronger reasons. So one of the stronger reasons is that we have not had a proper melee DPS ever, and the closest one we had before was Doomfist until he was, taken down from that status and moved to a tank in Overwatch 2. Now the closest things currently we have to a basically melee DPS would be Genji and Venture. Genji when he's ulting, but he also just plays fairly close, and then you have Venture who does a similar kind of playstyle where they play fairly close to the enemy. And so, these are the closest things we have to a melee DPS. I would count Venture more, because Venture is more in the Doomfist combo style, rather than Genji, who's just kind of in the, you know what I mean? Genji played different than Doomfist when he was a DPS, and Venture plays closer to Doomfist than Genji did when he was a DPS. So that's why I think potentially we could be seeing a melee DPS. Now, I'm gonna be honest, I was really hoping she would be a tank, but this is probably the strongest evidence for her being a DPS in the fact that when Season 19 launched, the hero gallery specifically for the DPS has changed for the first time, I think, since launch of Overwatch 2. When they have the new hero gallery look where it's separated by role. It has always been 5 in a row. It's always been 5 characters in a row, and in the second row, it's always been Ashe, Bastion, Cassidy, then Freya, and then we got right after Freya is somebody else, or it goes 5, and then Genji, Hanzo, Junkrat, Mei, Pharah. But now, it is Ashe, Bastion, Cassidy, Freya, Genji, somebody else. Maybe my numbers are off, but still, there's one more character in each row, and it's going to be on the screen now, so I'm wrong probably in my counting, but that doesn't matter either way. Widowmaker is now by herself for the first time since Overwatch 2's launch at the very bottom, and I did see in Japan it's actually Reaper. That doesn't matter here. That doesn't matter. Either way, there's a character on the bottom by themselves. It's always been Tracer and Widowmaker down there, then Venture released, then it was Tracer, Venture, Widowmaker. Now it's just Widowmaker. Makes me believe they switched it to the one more character a row format, so that way, they wouldn't have 4 characters on the bottom. Instead of having 3, they said, let's move everybody up one, so then only Widowmaker's by herself. Then she'll get a new friend in Lupa. So that is the strongest evidence, I think, aside from needing a melee DPS, to spice up the roster as a whole. So after this, since that is the conclusion of my role speculation, we're going to be getting into kit speculation and what we could potentially see from Lupa's kit. Alright, so the kit details, like the speculation I'm about to go into, can work for both a DPS and a tank. It just, the size, the visual, etc. will be different, or the effects would be a little bit different. So let's just get that out of the way now, and let's get into it now. So, what is her primary going to be? Well, we know she has a big as fuck sword. So, obviously, her primary is most likely the sword. Because, like, come on, it's a big sword. We've seen her mostly with the sword. That's her iconography, so it wouldn't make sense to just have it on ability. So I think it will be her primary fire. Now, a secondary fire. Now, I think I was doing research on gladiatorial things and stuff. But now, see, we have a short sword, which her sword looks like a short sword until I think it's an energy sword, by the way. So she'll, like, press a button and then the boom will come out. So that's, like, it looks like a short sword, similar to Magnus's. If you've seen that on Colosseo, there's the statue, Magnus. People wanted him to be a hero. I just think he'd be too boring just because he looks like average gladiator guy. And then you have Titus, who has a spear and a more proper square shield. And then you have Camilla, who looks like one of the Overwatch Retribution assassins, Talon assassins. So, I think we will not get any of that in her kit. I think if we're going to get any type of block ability, it'll be more in the vein of, if you've played Marvel Rivals, more like Blade, where she would just put it up and either make a barrier, or like it would just straight up just block right in front of her, more like how Doomfist blocks. If she were to be a tank or even a DPS, it would be like a quick little block, maybe even a parry mechanic. I've always wanted a parry mechanic, like an actual parry mechanic, not quote unquote Wrecking Balls, not Wrecking Balls quote unquote parry mechanic. It's not fucking parry, bro, it's a block. It's just a quick time block, but a parry is different for me. I think a parry is more like a quick time block that leads into an attack. Now, what else do I think we could see from her no matter what? I think we could also see some type of dash ability, leap ability, jump ability, something like that. Some movement, or at least in the vein of Junker Queen, where, uses an ability, can go faster, does some stuff, right? I think what we could see from her is something like Zin from Paladins, where he does a little spinning attack, because we've seen some sound design things where they use a wind wand, and then they use the same sound effect again when they were talking about her in the dev stream before, the lady was probably killed and shot. Not actually, but that was the skit. And basically, it's very similar to a lightsaber, which is why I'm very confident about her having an energy sword, because it goes vroom, 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 or vroom, 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 vroom. If you do it fast, it's like a lightsaber. So, it's what I'm thinking is going to sound like. So she would either have a spinning block ability where she spins her sword somehow. I'm less confident in that. Or maybe her herself spins as a dash, or she spins in her ultimate, like a vroom, 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 vroom. That's done, right? Now, I think if we were going to do a Zin type dash, it should do damage as she spins, because with Zin, he does a little spin, but then he doesn't do any damage with the spin. Or, I think we could see something like Asta, which, if you don't know, one of Asta's signature moves I've seen him use a lot is where he'll basically take the sword, bring it back around him with his other hand out, and then he dashes forward while slashing to do damage, and then a big slash, which she could use as an ultimate, or like her dash ability could do a little bit of a knockback if you're hit directly with it, but otherwise it'll do like damage right around people, I don't know, that could be interesting for her. And then I think we would have some type of restraining ability, and the reason I think this is because we're coming back to gladiatorial combat, because I already mentioned the short sword, the spear, the shield, etc. I don't think she'll use any of that, because she's going to use other things, because in the gladiator combats, they use chains, ropes, weighted nets, stuff like that to restrain people, to restrict movement. And so I think she'll have something like that, potentially, where she'd throw a net or a chain or some type of bola, maybe not a bola, but you know what I mean. Something to restrain an opponent. Then finally, her passive, which we do know from the Haunted Masquerade event, because I think it'll be a passive here, or it'll be an activated ability that will do the stacks, but I think it'll be passive, which, if you find and wear the Lupa mask in the Haunted Masquerade game mode, you will gain increased attack speed and movement speed when doing ability damage and melee damage. Which, why else would you be able to do good? Else would you have a passive that lets you do melee damage, like melee damage be a proc, if you're not a melee hero, right? Because like on Reinhardt Brig, it's insane. On a Blading Genji, it's insane. But otherwise, not really. So, that's why I think it'll be a passive. So then she could use her primary or abilities and just keep it going. And then also, we've seen in some screenshots like that poster again from Reina Victoria, where she has her hair up in like a little bit of a ponytail. But then we see in the Reconciliation comic, her hair is all big and sprawled out. So I think the more stacks you get of this, the bigger her hair will become. So it's basically like, I'm kind of thinking maybe not an actual band, but like a magnetic band or something that goes on her hair, right? So then when you bring a stack, it gets a little fuzzier. And then you get another stack, then it breaks open. Then a third and fourth stack, it just gets big hair. And then that is how you identify her among the rest of the cast when she's at her full stacks, is because she has the big hair. And I think she could potentially do a restricting thing with her hair, but I don't know how that would work, so that is less likely. But yeah, those are my kit speculations for Lupa, Codename, and yeah, I have nothing else to say on this other than that we're going to be getting Codex soon, so I'm hoping next season, when she releases, we'll get a Codex and maybe even see who's going to come on in Season 20. And, like, maybe not who's coming, but more like Hero 46, and then it'll say this date is when the comic and animated short's coming out, or maybe it'll just go 46, 47, 48, 49, and then over time you'll slowly, like, maybe it's opaque at first, but then like it'll give us a roll. That would be cool if it gives us the roll order that we're going to get next. So it's like, let's say she's a DPS, then the next roll is going to be a tank, then a support, then a tank, then another DPS, something like that. That'd be sick to see. We'll see how it goes with the Codex. But yeah, that's all. I will see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.